Hello all, this is James Johnson, aka Sulphur Blade, and I'm here to do something that's not a video game. I feel like talking about Star Trek Discovery and its first episode of Season 2. Um, we heard a lot of, well, lip service from people at CBS wanting to convince us that Season 2 was going to be better than Season 1. But after watching the first episode, they haven't learned their lessons. Not even remotely. Um, and it has to make a person scratch their head and say, why? I mean, I'm not a director. I'm not a producer of television shows. I had to sadly go through through a humanities class for my college degree that where we actually reviewed um, movies and stuff of that nature, and uh, we went into the background behind how scenes are done and how lighting plays into effect, and I thought that the class overall was just a complete waste of time, and the fact that I had to sit through that in college in order to get a degree was just mind-boggling. But that's a whole different story for another discussion. But even from that limited background in looking at movies and or television from a critical standpoint, rather than just did I enjoy the episode, which I think is a far easier and simpler way to figure out if a show is any good. And Star Trek Discovery walks a very narrow tightrope for me in that I end up watching the episodes, but they don't leave any lasting impact on me. They are the worst Star Trek episode. They're the worst Star Trek has ever been on TV. Um, Prior to that, for me, it would have been probably Deep Space Nine that wasn't so great. Um, Voyager was a little hard to swallow at times, but Voyager compared to Discovery would be like, wow, night and day. I mean, Voyager is 10 times a better show than Discovery. And even Deep Space Nine is 5 times a better show than Discovery. And Discovery doesn't even come close to Enterprise or The Next Generation or Star Trek, the original. Um, so, with that being said, why? Why does CBS keep mucking this up? It's not like CBS is a bunch of amateurs. They have some of the best television shows on TV. In fact, I watch CBS pretty much more than any other station or any other network on TV because they really have almost a monopoly on good TV these days. But Star Trek Discovery is just mind-boggling in how bad it is and how un-Star Trek like it is. I mean, the lighting, the atmosphere, the tone, nothing fits with Star Trek, and with them saying that they wanted to fix this show to make it more Star Trek like, the only thing that's more Star Trek like in the first episode of season 2 is Christopher Pike and his big golden uniform that looks correct. The rest of the episode was just more. It felt like watching a bad Hollywood movie, like the type, uh, like The Amazing Spider-Man or something from the Transformers, or it was all, I don't know, action, action, action. There's no drama. There's no humor. There's no wittiness that is Star Trek, and that was all of the first season. The first season was nothing but low lit action sequences that didn't fit in the Star Trek universe. And at the same time, the Orville comes out and is everything that Star Trek stands for without the Star Trek name on it. The Orville is 10 times a better show than Star Trek Discovery. And again, it leaves you scratching your head. Why? Like I said, it's not like CBS are a bunch of amateurs. So what's going on behind the scenes? Why does this keep happening? Why is this show such a train wreck? It's destroying the Star Trek canon. It is taking Star Trek and shoving it into it's literally destroying the universe. And the only thing that makes any sense is that that's the entire point. The entire point of Star Trek Discovery is to simply destroy the Star Trek universe because for whatever reason CBS wants to profit share with Paramount, because Paramount can't make any money off of the original timeline. So the point of Star Trek Discovery and the Kelvin timeline and all this other craziness is to simply destroy the main timeline so that CBS can share profits with Paramount. And again, that leaves me scratching my head. What company wants to share its money with another company? I still don't quite understand that. CBS, why are you wrecking one of the best shows, the best IPs you've ever had, one of the most powerful IPs in history, so you can share money with another company? I don't get it. How about this, CBS? Fix the show. Fix the beloved IP that so many love and reap the reward of having all the profits to yourself? Wouldn't that be better? I don't know. I might be confused here, but why do we care if Paramount can make any money? And why would we care about that to such an extent to go through such an elaborate conspiracy? It's almost like a conspiracy theory at this point. Like we're waiting for the planet Nibiru to come into close proximity of Earth, and the Titans are gonna come to the planet and blah, and it's gonna be the end of days. How many different conspiracy theories are there out there? And now Star Trek IP and the Star Trek universe is developing its own conspiracy theory about Paramount needs to make money and can't make money off the original timeline, so we're going to wreck the original timeline in cahoots between CBS and Paramount so that CBS could share all of its profits with Paramount? That doesn't even make sense. But I don't know what else to make of it. How bad can Star Trek get, and why does it keep getting so bad? It's just a head scratcher. So ultimately, if you're wondering how the first episode was, it was just a continuation of the first season. There was nothing new about it. You had an action-packed, pointless pods going through a asteroid field, and of course someone died, and then we had to just slap all Star Trek convention in the face by ensuring everyone knew the color of the uniforms of the people going into the pods, with the captain being in, which is Pike, being in yellow, Burnham, who's a science officer, not being in blue but being in silver, because when have we ever seen a silver uniform of any type in the Star Trek universe? But hey, we're going to put Burnham in silver suit for unbeknownst reasons, even though she's a science officer. And we're going to throw in the science officer that came over from the Enterprise in blue, and evidently the Enterprise's security chief, I would assume. They never really explained much about her other than she seems to be somehow imposing, in red. And these four people, Burnham and the three people we meet from Enterprise, go flying through the asteroid field, and who dies? It wasn't the girl in red. No. It was the science officer in blue. A blue shirt died, not a red shirt. I don't know about you, but I feel a little insulted here. This is Star Trek. We know that the red shirt is supposed to die. What's going on? And that is just an overarching metaphor for what Star Trek Discovery has become. It's become the antithesis of everything possible to destroy what we know about Star Trek. And now they are going into such beloved territory. Spock. We are going to see Spock in this season. Whether we like it or not, we are going to be dealing with the fact that there's going to be a Spock in this season, and he's going to have a beard and chest hair, and he's going to have his human emotions overrunning his logic. Can anyone say train wreck? Leonard Nimoy. His legacy in Star Trek. What he means to the Star Trek community, the character that he created so perfectly, like nobody else could. He passed on that torch to the new Spock in the Paramount universe. And so that new Spock maybe got a little bit of a handoff from the old Spock. And J.J. Abrams' Spock was at least something we could swallow, since the old Spock, in a way, passed the torch to the new Spock in the movie. But now new Spock gets no torch handoff, and new Spock doesn't have to play by the rules of Spock, and probably won't play by the rules of Spock, since the whole point of Star Trek Discovery and then the upcoming series Picard is to basically not play by the rules of Star Trek in order to derail the Star Trek Prime timeline so far off the tracks as to completely destroy it, so that CBS can share its profits with Paramount. I hope that Leonard Nimoy is rolling in his grave right now, because this is a travesty. And I'm still watching this train wreck. It's got the name Star Trek on it, so it's hard to not watch. But at this point, it's like watching something so horrible you can't take your eyes off of it. This grotesque destruction of something you love so much, but you can't look away. And that's what Star Trek Discovery is. It's a grotesque destruction of one of the greatest IPs in motion pictures, in TV, even in video games. And Star Trek Discovery is doing grave injustice. And the whole lip service we've been fed about how this season is going to be better, how they learned their lessons, there were no bright white light shots in Star Trek Discovery. It was all dark. There was no normal reverse image type interactions between one character and another. No, it was all very camera panning constantly, never allowing you to get any sense of stability. No, Star Trek Discovery hasn't changed its tone. It's the same action-oriented tone in a show that's supposed to be about light-hearted drama with a mix of appropriate humor. And Star Trek Discovery doesn't have it. There is no appropriate humor in Star Trek Discovery. They even went so much as to try to rip off an Orville gag in the season 2 premiere by having a crazy alien in the turbo lift sneeze on a fellow officer, similar to how Dan kept showing up in the Orville and being the uncomfortable alien in the turbo lift. It's really it's bad. So if you're looking to see Star Trek Discovery going in a direction that's more in line with what Star Trek's supposed to be, they haven't. If you're wanting to see more of the same Star Trek Discovery from last season, well, you'll get to see that. Is the lip service that they pose to all of I don't even want to say Star Trek hardcore fans, because that's how they want to paint the portrait, is that it's just the hardcore fans that are upset. I'm not a hardcore fan of Star Trek. I like Star Trek and Star Wars. Which sometimes that's not supposed to happen, right? The hardcore fans of Star Trek will vie against the hardcore fans of Star Wars, or vice versa. No, I'm just a fan of sci-fi in general. I love Stargate. I love Firefly. I mean, there's so many different good sci-fi shows that when we see bad sci-fi, it's easy to spot. And Star Trek Discovery is just that. It's bad sci-fi. It's not to say that there aren't some good things that could be salvaged in the Star Trek Discovery universe, like Saru, who I hate and like all at the same time. He's very a character that I feel could come farther and grow. Is like the only character we've seen grow much, other than Tilly, who is the she's absolutely essential to stomach watching Star Trek Discovery in the first place. She's the exact opposite of the show in that she is all happy and always bursting with hope in a show that is so depressing. And that's all on purpose. I understand that. But Tilly's annoying. Tilly is almost Star Trek's Jar Jar Binks at this point. And while there are things about Tilly I don't mind and kind of like, you're overusing the likability so much that it hurts. There's a bridge crew that I guess the way of establishing our relationships with the bridge crew, who we didn't even know who the hell they were in episode 1, was to have Pike do a roll call, and we actually got some names for some of these bridge crew. And we got a few more shots of the faces of some of these bridge crew. But that doesn't equal a person. Is the girl who runs the helm with the crazy eye, is she attractive? Yes, I'd like to know more about her. Hey, let's have a couple of episodes all about learning her backstory. Oh, wait, we don't have time to put that into our action-packed narrative that is completely revolving around Michael Burnham and how she's destroying the Star Trek universe as a whole. We can't. It's like the show doesn't have the ability to put the brakes on, doesn't have the ability to become Star Trek. In Star Trek Next Generation or Star Trek or any of the shows, while there was always some emergency to solve, there was plenty of non-emergency time to learn the crew. To discover why Geordi lost his sight. To discover why Data wants to be more human. To discover about the Doctor and how she was married and where Wesley came from. And all of these things are needed for a Star Trek show to succeed. And we've seen backstory on the Doctor, who's now dead, and he's no longer in the show. We've seen backstory on Lorca, who's now dead and not in the show. We've seen backstory on the original captain from the Shenzhou, who's now the alternate universe captain, and completely different. So we have learned about characters that don't really matter, and then the characters that should matter, we don't learn anything about. Star Trek Discovery gets so many things wrong. In fact, part of the reason I think that I like Mr. Saru more than I previous liked him is because of one of the 4 short Star Trek clips that focused on him and his planet and gave me backstory to discover where the heck he came from, and that he is from a planet that hasn't developed warp yet, and he had to make the choice to never be able to go home in order to come and be a part of Starfleet. And to know that he did that as his species that is a species that is very adverse to danger, while he's possibly, quite possibly, the bravest person of his species to have existed in a millennia, paints him in a brand new light from the chicken that we know him to be from the original series. He's actually really brave for a chicken. But we wouldn't know that without a 15-minute Star Trek short that evidently the Star Trek shorts were created to try to solve some monetary issue, but that's stuff I don't know about. But you can watch other YouTube videos. There's other people that can tell you all about all of these topics that I'm just merely touching on. And the only reason I know about them is because I was so disgruntled, or I'm so disgruntled with Star Trek Discovery, that I bothered to look at them. Because that's how the internet works, right? We want to see if anyone else shares our pain. And when we watch a train wreck of a show like Star Trek Discovery, we decide, well, let's find out how many other people think that this show's a train wreck. And then you discover there's lots of people out there. And then they all have all of this information and YouTube videos that you can watch to discover all of this back knowledge of behind the scenes stuff, and you have to wonder, well, how much of it is true? And then you also have to wonder, how can't it be true when this show is so bad? But yeah, I've definitely rambled and gone way off topic. I think the entire point of this show was basically to say that the Season 2, Episode 1, Star Trek Discovery, is not in any way an improvement over the Season 1. They haven't learned their lesson. And if you weren't a big fan of Star Trek, the first season, you may not even want to waste your breath with the second season. Just stick to Orville. It's 10 times the better show. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Star Trek Discovery. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If so, leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz. And as always, everybody, peace.